I'm just preparing to do the next live broadcast, which is, for want of a better title, a mini review 24 hours later with the Google Pixel 2. And it's not all good, so do prepare yourself. There are some issues, and I will also of course be taking a Q&A session throughout the video. So it has been 24 hours with the Google Pixel 2, and for the most part I have been extremely impressed. The unboxing experience I did on the channel yesterday was very good indeed. I was really impressed with the overall experience. There was something I mentioned in yesterday's video, which is the mismatch of accessories inside the box. The accessories in here are indeed white charger, white cable, white adapter with the all black version of the Pixel 2. So a little bit disappointed that there weren't black accessories in here. It's not a deal breaker. With the white version, obviously having white accessories will be really very nice indeed. Now, if you haven't seen my unboxing and initial impressions of the Pixel 2, where I test things like the fingerprint sensor, I did a really rough sort of camera test during that first broadcast as well. That is live on the channel, so do check that out. Now, before I get into my mini review good and proper, as always, I want to say a big thank you to everyone who's tuned in, including Audi and Chris and also Amadeus. Thank you very much for tuning in. Little bit of an admission to you here. I am slightly addicted to doing the live broadcast lately. I'm really enjoying it purely because of the interaction. So do expect to see a lot more. This is the second one today already. And also, before I dive into this mini review, I just want to let you know that there is the normal chat here, so you can of course leave me comments and questions. There is also super chat if you want to highlight your comment or question. There is also a GoFundMe page, which I do have a link to in the chat. That's going to hopefully help support the channel. It's purely optional. I value each and every one of you, whichever way you support me. Even with a view, that is good enough for me. I just love you all tuning in, so big thank you. So who else we got in here? Russ B, geez, you're picky, Dave. Who cares what colour the charger is? That is very true. It doesn't bother me exactly sort of to the point where I would complain about it. I just think it's where a company misses a trick, and I think that buyers would appreciate it. The fact that you get white accessories with the white device, black with the black, etc. It's just attention to detail, not a deal breaker at all. Audi says, love the live streams. Thank you very much. And hello to Sharpie76. Hello there. Thank you for tuning in again. And hello to Geek Traven. Thanks for tuning in. I believe, if I remember rightly, you are in India or quite far away from the UK. So thank you again for tuning in. I really do appreciate it. So, a quick comparison first of all. I had somebody ask me this on Twitter, and I love giving you the sort of feedback and the answers you want. Somebody asked me for a comparison between the iPhone 7 Plus and the Pixel 2. Not a really fair comparison, because if it was the Pixel 2 XL it would be a little bit more of a fair comparison in size, but somebody wanted to see the size difference. So we can see there that the Pixel 2 is quite a bit smaller, and obviously the display size is a bit smaller as well. Not jarringly smaller, so it's not a big deal, but if you're coming from a large screen smartphone to something like this, you may well notice it. So anyway, let's get the good things out of the way first of all, because there are some bad points, there are some issues which I'm sure will be addressed, but let's get the good points talked about first. Let's start off on a positive note. And I will come back to your questions a little bit later on. I've seen a really good question there from Ahmed in the chat. So the good points for me, the setup procedure, very snappy, very quick. It was really quick to turn on and get into that initial welcome screen. It guides you through with slightly different setup procedure than I've been used to in previous versions of Android. But a really good, clean and easy to understand way of setting up the phone. And then you're into this really sort of stock or almost stock Android operating system with very minimal apps installed from the offset, and I think it just looks really very clean. With regards to transitions between screens, frame drops, things like that, I'm seeing a little bit of stutter in some of the animations, but for the most part it's a really snappy device, very responsive. I also got asked about the bezels being a deal breaker. We have got small bezels left and right, and of course bezels top and bottom. The bezels top and bottom house the front facing speakers, and I'd much rather have them than a bezel-less design and a poor speaker. The speakers on this are really good, and I also like having something to hold on to. I mentioned this in a previous stream as well. So it's not a deal breaker for me. If you really want the latest on-trend thing, which is of course a bezel-less screen, then go for it. You know, they do look absolutely gorgeous. The Samsung Galaxy Note 8, which I'm hoping to be able to get into review, has got an amazing screen, and it's just a personal preference. It's a personal preference. If this is a deal breaker for you, then go for the Pixel 2 XL if you want one of the latest made by Google smartphones. Now, moving on to the actual screen quality, I'll try and give you a look at this. It doesn't always focus very well, but if I give you a look at that screen, the screen is really good, and the off-axis viewing angles are really good. And in outdoor sunlight, when you put that brightness right up, it goes very bright. Let me tell you that. The screen goes super bright, and it is really readable in outdoor light as well. So they've done a good job on the screen. As well as the viewing angles, it's very uniformly lit. What I mean by that is there's no sort of patchiness when you're looking at a pure white screen. Overall, just a really good quality screen. With regard to the camera, and there is a bad point with the camera as well, but overall the front facing camera nice and clear for selfies. The rear facing camera and the portrait mode, which we'll come on to in a bit more detail later on, take some amazing photos. The blurred out backgrounds are really impressive for a single camera design. It's all done through software, and they have just done a really good job. Sort of edge detection is really good. I did some tests on some quite complicated backgrounds, and even with complicated backgrounds it messed up a little tiny bit, sort of maybe where you could see something just on the edge of the glasses here, it would maybe not make a particular point blurred, but for the most part really good performance on the cameras. I would say that the cameras on the Pixel 2, apart from the issue I'm going to talk to you about in a short while, are every bit as good as the iPhone 7 Plus I got here, and every bit as good as the iPhone 8 Plus. The dynamic range I think is better. I took some pictures of trees with clouds behind, and it kept those clouds in, didn't blow out the highlights. So I think the performance on the camera is better than the iPhone 8 Plus. Not in all situations, but certainly in some of the situations where we've got this really stark contrast between the sort of main subject and maybe a backlit area. This certainly does a much better job. It's doing it combination of optically, sensor, and of course really clever software implementation on the camera. And this has also got another chip inside which apparently hasn't been switched on, and that's going to improve the camera even more in the future. So they're all the good points, apart from the amazing build quality, which I didn't even touch on. This feels like a really nicely made smartphone. Battery life I can't comment on yet. I'm still on the first charge. I've been testing it a lot, doing videos, photos, and we're around about 50% on the first charge. So the battery life looks as though it's going to hold up okay. Now before I move on to the bad points, and there aren't many bad points, but before I move on to those, let's have a look in the chat. Ahmed Al-Hashar says, is it worth buying the Pixel 2? I'll come on to that towards the end of the video. I will answer your question towards the end of the video. Geeks Raven, any display problems? I've not come across any display problems yet. Russ B says, you're too used to Apple design and expensive extras they sell. Maybe. Geeks Raven said, I heard that the viewing angles are not that great. I found them absolutely fine. I think they are good. You do lose some of the visibility and the colour does shift a little bit, but I think they're pretty good. Deepak Murthy asks, are the stereo speakers louder than the iPhone 8 Plus? I would say they are a little tiny bit louder, a lot clearer, positioned better, and overall a nicer experience than the iPhone 8 Plus. We've also got Gina. Hello Gina, thanks for tuning in again. How are you finding the Pixel 2? I need to upgrade. I was thinking iPhone 8 Plus, Pixel 2 or 2XL or iPhone 10. Well, I know, Gina, that you really prioritise the camera performance in your smartphones. You take some amazing photos, so I know that's really important to you. I think that the Pixel 2 and the Pixel 2 XL, of course, has got the same cameras in there, performs better than the iPhone 8 Plus that I had into review. I think the dynamic range is a lot better. They're going to be still very close in some situations where you're not looking for that dynamic range, where you're maybe taking something that's evenly lit. Then they're going to be very similar, hardly anything in it. I can't really say about the iPhone 10. I'm assuming the iPhone 10 will be pretty much the same as the iPhone 8 Plus. So I would go with the overall user experience that you're looking for, which is somewhat lacking at the moment in iOS 11. When Apple address those problems, I might have a different answer. So if camera is your priority, I would say it's a close call, but possibly the Pixel. And if user experience is your priority at the moment, at this moment in time, then I would definitely try and get a Pixel 2 or Pixel 2 XL in your hands and see if you like the user experience. It's been very smooth for me so far, apart from two problems. Paul Fish says, hi Dave, I have the Pixel XL first gen. With the resale value of this, I'll probably have to pass on the new model. They simply don't hold their value. That's very true. The Pixel 2 XL comes in at quite a premium price. The Pixel XL has been reduced in price quite considerably. I think in the UK you can pick one up for just under £400, brand new SIM-free unlocked, which takes the resale value of it down quite considerably, so that is an issue. They certainly don't hold their value as much as the Apple iPhones, so that is a problem. You're not missing out on much though, because the original Pixel XL is still a smartphone. It's a smart choice, really good camera performance, and you're still going to get another update on it. It's still a supported device, so I don't think you're missing out on much. Maybe you'll upgrade when the Pixel 3 XL comes out. So don't worry too much about having the supposed latest and greatest smartphone. So great questions and comments there so far. Now I want to come on to some of the bad points, of which I've experienced only really two, but one of them is quite concerning. And I've been going through tech support with Google. Their team is very responsive, but I've had to go into developer mode and I've had to create log files and email them across because they couldn't resolve the issue. Now the first issue that they couldn't resolve, which I think I've resolved myself, is when I initially set this up, I skipped through a lot of the setup because I didn't want you to sit through me typing in all my account details, and I didn't activate Wi-Fi, I didn't activate certain other things, and then I went through later on off camera to set up Google Assistant, and it tells me to say Google 3 or 4 times to train it to my voice, and it wouldn't recognize my voice. It wouldn't even activate. It was saying that it couldn't communicate with the microphone. So what I did was a factory reset, because Google couldn't help me sort that out. They thought it might have faulty microphones, and I said, well, they're working for everything else. So I did a complete reset and set up in the way that I would normally do it, which was activate Wi-Fi, activate various services, and then the Google training, the voice training and recognition worked. So I think I solved that one myself. Now I said there were only 2 problems. There were in fact 3. I'll come on to the second and third one now. The second one was coming up tomorrow on the Geekanoids channel, a pre-recorded video, not a live broadcast. The 4K video camera test is going live, and I popped this onto a tripod, set this recording, did the whole video because I was using the rear facing camera, so the screen was facing away from me, and then went back round behind the tripod to see that it said that it couldn't communicate with the camera. So I could see the live view, but it had an error communicating with the camera. And when I reviewed the video footage back from the first recording, it recorded all of the audio but only about the first 10 or 15 seconds of video. So then I became like a freeze frame. Doing a restart on it solved the problem, and I managed to record the 4K video. Was the 4K video a good quality? You'll have to watch tomorrow's video on the channel for that. It's coming online around about 6:30 AM GMT. And I'll let you judge. I'll let you judge for yourself what you think of the 4K video quality. I know you want to know what I think. I'll give you a little bit of a hint. I thought it was good, but not very bright. You'll see what I mean when you see tomorrow's video. A lot of detail there. And also the audio issue that other people are having with this sort of hissing, high pitch sort of tone to the audio captured alongside video. It wasn't there, or I couldn't detect it. So maybe that's only apparent in some of the pixels. The third issue is still an issue. I haven't managed to resolve it. Do stay tuned, by the way. I will be taking more questions shortly. It also relates to the camera. I'm not sure if I'm going to be able to show you this properly, but basically, if I put the camera on and I switch to portrait, so I'm looking at myself in portrait, and then I put the portrait mode on, so this is to blur the background, and it comes up with a little icon, and then it switches back to the other camera. So if I turn that off and I'm looking at the screen, let's see if I can show you this a little bit better. Looking at the screen, so this is now front facing camera, and then I'm tapping on portrait mode. It shows the little icon briefly for a few seconds, and then it switches back round straight away to the rear camera. So it won't do portrait mode where it blurs the background using the selfie front facing camera. Now forgive me if I'm wrong, but I thought that was a feature. I thought it supported portrait mode on both cameras, and I can't get it to work on the front facing camera. I have reached out on Twitter to a few people. They have said it should work. I have reached out to Google. They have said it should work, and they are struggling to give me a solution. They can't tell me why it's not supporting the portrait mode. Now please do forgive me if I'm wrong on that one. Maybe it's not a supported feature, but I've been told to do things like updating the camera, which I can't do. It doesn't appear in any update lists. I've cleared the cache, I've done a forced stop, cleared all the data out, done a complete restart, and still can't get that mode working on the front facing camera. I also did a little bit of searching online, and I have found at least a dozen other complaints from other users asking for help and not getting it at this stage, where they're saying they can't get the portrait mode to work on theirs either. So I think it needs to be pushed out an update to enable that, but I have also had people tell me that it works fine on theirs. Just saying, and I'm a little bit disappointed on that because that was one of the features I wanted to test for my review, and I haven't been able to do that. So anyway, let's move back to the comments and see what else has come in that interim period. We've got hi Dave, how are you, from Andy the Machine Heap. John Decker saying it's 4 in California. John Decker also saying I only care about the Huawei Mate 10 Pro, must have it. It looks like a really nice smartphone. The only not issue, but the only thing you have to think about with the Mate 10 Pro is, are you happy with the EMUI overlay, with their sort of overlay on top of Android? Will you get updates quickly? Certainly their support seems very good. The specs read very good, but it's all down to user experience again. So as long as they've implemented that user interface well enough over the top of Android version 8, then it should be really good. And as I say, the spec sheet reads good, but it's not all about the specs. It's about how you experience the phone. I'm still hoping to get the Huawei Mate 10 and Mate 10 Pro into the studio. I'm hoping for some devices to come in so I can at least share my opinion with you. I've been asked many times what I think of those devices. Gina M says, is stock Android on the Pixel which is not stock Android, it's almost stock. It's got this sort of new overlay on it, but it is almost stock. Is stock Android on the Pixel on par with iOS? Had Samsung, wasn't impressed with all the bloatware. Heard the Google Pixel is nice and simple with the added bonus of more customization than iOS. This is just as fluid. It's much more responsive. The frame rate's much better, and the customization is a big thing with this. You can put a custom launcher on it if you don't like this experience, and that will completely change your experience again. You can put icons wherever you want. You can add widgets pretty much wherever you want, and the customization is a lot better than on iOS. And another thing I really like, coming from a photographer's point of view, is when you're in the camera app, all of your settings are accessible in the camera app instead of having to come out and go into the separate settings panel and dive into various things to change something like the resolution, which you have to do on iOS. How crazy is that? They're all there within the actual camera app. So things like that all add up to a really good user experience. We've also got here Audi 123000 saying, will you make a video if you miss your iPhone when using the Pixel 2? Yes, I will be. I will be making a video. If I miss it, I will obviously update you. It won't be on this Pixel 2 because of the microphone issues and because of the camera issue. It's actually being swapped out, so it'll be on a fresh one. Hopefully by the time the fresh one arrives, I will also have the Pixel 2 XL, so I can do maybe a side-by-side comparison. If that's not the case, then obviously I'll cover the Pixel 2 XL, which I'm thinking, even at this early stage, I might appreciate the larger screen a little bit better. So we've got Len Churn. Is it worth paying more for the Pixel 2 XL? If you really like that big screen experience, then yes, it is worth paying the extra. Now earlier on I had a question from, do I scroll back because I can't remember who it was. Let's have a look. Here we go. It's from Ahmed, who asks, is it worth buying the Pixel 2? It's a question I can't answer for you as the buyer because it's a very personal experience buying a smartphone. If the Pixel 2 XL didn't pique my interest and wasn't on the horizon there of being delivered in a few weeks, and I was looking at purchasing this instead of an iPhone, then yes, I do think it's worth the money. I think it's got a very nice build quality and a very nice user experience. The only thing that's tainted that slightly is the issue with the front-facing camera and that initial issue with the microphone. The fingerprint sensor, perfectly placed. Overall, the camera performance has been absolutely amazing, and the battery life looks like it's going to be good as well, and the performance is there. It's not without its issues, as I explained during this video, but for the most part I do think this is worth the money. I think it's a very sweet device, and I'm really looking forward to obviously testing this a bit more and also testing the Pixel 2 XL. I'm still really keen to get a Note 8 in. I know a lot of people don't like the TouchWiz interface on Samsung devices, but I think the Note 8 would be also a really good device to just see about the camera performance. Really, the camera has piqued my interest on the Note 8, and although a stylus isn't for everyone, on the Note 8 I take a lot of Instagram photos now, and I like to sort of annotate on the top. Anyway, it looks like we had a little glitch in the stream there. You didn't miss. For now, that is my opinion of the Pixel 2. I think it's a really good device and worthy of your consideration.